Chapter 46, New Enemies and Old Debts. Chen Xiang just entered into the 7th level of the mortal martial realm, so now he is trying to stabilize his newfound power. This will allow him to more smoothly cast Engulfing Devil skill in the future. The next day at noon, Chen Xiang left the forest and returned to King City. He was curious on how the sales of Dan King Ho were going. Chen Xiang, while walking down the avenue, saw Dan King Ho from quite some distance away, but he did not expect it to be so busy. This made him feel strange, so he quickly walked towards it. When he arrived at the entrance, he saw that the whole shop was in a bit of a mess. Chen Luzong was full of anger while directing others to clean it all up. Dan King Ho was attacked. Chen Xiang was extremely sure of that. "Granduncle, I'm back." Chen Xiang quickly stepped inside. After seeing the pale face on Chen Luzong, he frowned and asked, "Granduncle, who attacked you?" Chen Xiang was completely furious. He decided that as long as he managed to get a name out from Chen Luzong's mouth, he would immediately go and get revenge. He would make them pay a heavy price for what they had done. "I was wounded by Chen Firong, and the Black Wing Gang members are the ones responsible for the destruction of the store. Not only that, but they also wounded the workers. Thankfully Meng Lao and the other alchemists were in seclusion for refining Dan, so they are all fine." After saying so, Chen Luzong hastily grabbed Chen Xiang. "Where do you think you're going?" When Chen Xiang learned that it was the Black Wing Gang who did this, he was seething with fury inside. Not only did they send assassins before to kill him, which is a debt that must be repaid, but now they even attacked the store. Chen Xiang coldly replied, "Granduncle, let me go. I must get rid of the Black Wing Gang once and for all. I'll go and settle old grudges and new debts altogether. You go ahead and inform father that he needs to be completely prepared for a war with the Yao family. If our Chen family wants to have a stand in King City, we need to make an example out of the Yao family and completely frighten all other forces." "You want to go alone?" "No, I will also with you." Chen Luzong said. "No, you need to go and first speak with Meng Lao. Dan King Ho will continue to remain open at this time. If anyone comes to trouble us, they must be mercilessly slaughtered." Chen Xiang then walked away. Although Meng Bo and Chen Luzong's individual strength was incomparable to Chen Firong's, if they fought together Chen Firong would have to pay a steep price to defeat both of them. Along the way, Chen Xiang overheard many things about Dan King Ho. Many people were very disappointed. Dan King Ho's prices were much cheaper than the Yao family Dans, and once they started selling Dans it would have a large negative impact on the Yao family. As such, the Yao family wanted to bully Dan King Ho into closing. Although it meant there is no morals involved, and the methods were downright brutal, nobody could complain about them. This is because the Yao family is one of the powerhouses in King City and no one wanted to be their enemy. "Yao family, just you wait and watch how I will destroy you." Chen Xiang's complexion gradually turned gloomy as his anger skyrocketed. At the Black Wing Gang mansion entrance, many guards were present. When they saw Chen Xiang heading towards them, they hastily drew out their weapons. "If you don't want to die, all of you leave at once." Chen Xiang stood emotionless at the Black Wing Gang mansion entrance. He clenched his fists, which suddenly became covered with a bustling azure aura. Amidst the azure aura, lighting was bursting out one after the other, emitting a horrifying crackling noise. It was truly frightening. Everyone didn't want to die. They were all overawed by the sheer amount of true ki emanating from Chen Xiang's fists. They knew they were nothing but ants in front of Chen Xiang, so they immediately ran away. The gate was tightly shut. Chen Xiang stood in front of it as lighting flashed past his eyes. With a shout, he circulated the azure dragon lighting true ki on both of his fists and then fiercely hurled them towards that door. It was as if two giant dragons were pounding on the gates. Boom, boom, boom. That thick door instantly disintegrated into powder. Smoke billowed about as all the guards present were stunned. Trembling, they realized that if it was their body there, it would have also been turned into dust like the gate. This is the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. I'm absolutely sure that was Aura Ki." One of the guards immediately shouted with shock after seeing how Chen Xiang entered the mansion. According to the rumors, Chen Xiang was in the 6th level of the mortal martial realm, yet now he was clearly at the 7th level. It was too much to take in. All the guards secretly let loose a deep breath. Had they tried to block him, it could have only resulted in certain death. After entering inside the mansion, Chen Xiang's entire body was covered in a soaring evil ki. He had been practicing slaughtering hard, and now all the killing intent was boiling over. All the previously accumulated slaughter ki gushed out, deterring many retained and maid servants and forcing them to kneel. Their whole body felt weak as they lie down. This is what makes slaughtering heart so formidable. Merely the key only is capable of deterring the other party who has come here to cause trouble with the Black Wing Gang. Chen Xiang halted his footsteps when he heard the shout. Dan King Hall's Chen Xiang, underlings of the Yao family students. Today I will make sure the entire Black Wine Gang disappears from King City. Chen Xiang said in a heavy tone. Chen Xiang saw a blade of light flashing from the front. A person armed with a broadsword was leaping from quite a while away and aiming at his head. Humph! Chen Xiang just snorted in disdain, lightly waving his hand. An azure or rich in lighting key or madly gushed out from his hand. It shot like a speeding star towards the man leaping up in the air. One could only hear the sound of an explosion. The man didn't even have the chance to cry before his whole body suddenly bursted into a mist of blood. The lighting aura power is extremely frightening. Many of the Black Wind Gang members, after seeing the blood mist drifting in the air and the shattered blade, became petrified. For them, it was the first time seeing such a frightening attack. With just one move, an expert of the Black Wind Gang was crushed. Moreover, not even a slag was left after the attack. Chen Xiang is in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Skills of such experts are not common to begin with. Not to mention how Chen Xiang has been using divine exercises to cultivate. Moreover, he also has the 5-element attributed true key. You walked right into my trap, Chen Xiang. Today, I will not allow you to leave here in one piece. You just killed my son and I'm gonna present your head as a sacrifice for him. A resentful voice came soon after. Chen Xiang was standing in the middle of a large garden. He was surrounded on all sides by black-robed men. At this time, the Black Wind Gang leader appeared, and at his side were a few people standing in luxurious attire. It was quite a surprise to Chen Xiang that the King City governor, Hu Gaowen, was actually present. A single teenager stood beside him. It should be his son. Chen Xiang sneered. So your son is allowed to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill him? Not to mention he even brought along 300 people with him, yet he was still killed by me. They were just a big pile of trash. No one is to blame for his death except himself. Worthy of the rumors. Chen family young master, could it be that you do not know about your own family's situation? Your wastrel father has been wounded and Dan King Hall was destroyed. Yet you actually dare to show your face here. You're simply seeking death. One middle-aged man dressed in a golden hufu sneered and retorted. Chen Xiang's body shook as mesmerizing lighting aura surged out. His eyes were filled to the brim with hate as he glared towards that middle-aged man, saying, "What did you just say? My father is trash. So what if I said that? Remember this great master's name, Wang Yushen. I'm the patriarch of the Wang family." That middle-aged man said proudly. The Wang family is one of the martial art families of King City, but Chen Xiang didn't have any strong impressions of them. But in return, the families that lie outside King City do not even appear in their sights, therefore they naturally didn't pay any attention to the Chen family. Humph. So it was only a family of dogs licking the Yao family's boots. I do not even consider you a threat. Chen Xiang sneered. These puny families trying to flatter the Yao family was not much of a surprise to him. Little bastard! How dare you insult the Wang family? I'll definitely waste you today. Wang Yushen flew into a rage. Although Chen Xiang's speech was ugly, it was still the truth. Chapter 47, Exterminated. Wang Yushen roared before his body was covered in a golden aura. It was as if his entire body was on fire. This was the Wang family's unique King True Key and it gave off an incomparably fierce pressure. Wang Yushen took a few steps before blasting his golden fist into the air towards Chen Xiang. A tough and powerful key burst out accompanied by a roar. In a blink of an eye, the pressure had been directly thrusted into the face of Chen Xiang. The aura-filled strike rumbled as it dashed forward, leaving behind a trail of explosions that caused all the nearby stones to shatter into several pieces. A deep gully was formed. It was as if the floor had just been plowed. Seeing this, the crowd shivered. If someone got it with that kind of power, they would be reduced to nothing but mincemeat. With only this level of power you dare claim to be a patriarch? My dad could crush you with one hand behind his back. Chen Xiang smiled contemptuously as he waved his arm fiercely, instantly striking the incoming key aura and scattering it into nothingness. Everyone could not avoid the sensation of shock. Chen Xiang just waved his hand like he was shooing away a fly, but instead that fearsome key aura was easily swept away in front of the shocked onlookers. Chen Xiang's key aura rushed out with just a wave of his hand, and he was able to completely eliminate Wang Yushen's blow. This in itself was indisputable proof that Chen Xiang's key aura was many times stronger than Wang Yushen's. Wang Yushen's confidence and arrogance had vanished into thin air after just one light wave of Chen Xiang's hand. This made him doubt that whether his key aura was able to unleash and display its full potential. But just by looking at the gully formed by his ki aura, he realized that this was not the case. As he thought about it again, his whole body shook as he realized he was no match for Chen Xiang's formidable strength. Currently, Wang Yishan, along with everyone else, stood in a stunned daze. With a flicker, Chen Xiang arrived in front of Wang Yishan with frightening speed, which once again sent everyone into shock. Before Wang Yishan was even able to react, he felt a severe pain explode from his abdomen. He immediately lowered his head and saw an arm cloaked in azure true ki. It had cleanly penetrated through his stomach and extended out of his back. Wang Yishan loudly shrieked. At this time Chen Xiang had already ripped away his arm. He had just used azure dragon claw, transforming his true ki into a sharp dragon claw. Its sharpness could with ease penetrate a hard boulder, let alone the fragile human body. True ki was still wrapped around his arm, revealing not a single blood stain left from that brutal strike. Looking at the pale Wang Yishan in front of him, Chen Xiang coldly stated, "Get away from my sight. This is between me and the Blackwing Gang. You brought this upon yourself when you stepped in between us. For now I'll spare you dog life and let you take a look at the true strength of our Chen family." Wang Yishan was completely shocked by Chen Xiang's strength. Although his heart was filled to the brim with resentment, he did not dare say anything in reply. In the end, he reluctantly crawled away as a few people came to his aid, taking him away from the Blackwing Gang's mansion. Chen Xiang focused his eyes towards the Blackwing Gang's leader. Azure lighting was flashing within his eyes as slaughter ki started to soar out from his entire body. After sweeping his gaze through everyone present, he eventually reached the Blackwing Gang's leader. Chen Xiang coldly stated, "If any you meddle in things which you're not supposed to, don't blame me for what happens. You and I don't have any deep grudges, and I don't want to take any needless actions which would waste my strength." Governor Huigaowen was an expert of the 8th level of the mortal martial realm. Although his overall strength was a lot higher than Wang Yishan's, when he had witnessed Chen Xiang's performance and skills, Huigaowen was extremely conflicted. Even if he faced Chen Xiang and somehow won, Huigaowen was dead certain that he would not get through it unscathed. It would obviously not be beneficial for him, and he could clearly see this point. Otherwise he would have never become a governor of King City. He saw that the Blackwing Gang's leader has offended a young alchemist with immeasurable potential. It was simply not worth it, not even adding into the equation that the Chen family was not to be trifled with. Without any delay, Huigaowen took his son and instantly left. As for the Blackwing Gang's leader, he couldn't stop the current progression of things. This was because he already knew that after today, the Blackwing Gang would cease to exist in King City. He could only stand by and watch as everyone he invited left one by one. Although he was extremely angry, he dared not to attack and force them to stay. "Attack him together. He is just one person," the Blackwing Gang's leader yelled as he rushed towards Chen Xiang wielding a long black spear. Just like an angry dragon, Chen Xiang madly roared as powerful ki aura waves rippled outwards with Chen Xiang as the origin. Wherever they went, only destruction followed. The bricks it breezed past were crushed into dust. Flowers and trees within the garden suddenly looked like they had been slashed by thousands of blades. Everyone present in the garden started to scream out miserably, and their 7 apertures started bleeding as they were covered in scars that sprang up one after another in an endless loop. The entire group quickly fell down on the ground. This move of Chen Xiang's burst out vigorous amounts of aura ki along with a sonic attack. Although the consumption of energy was tremendous, the power and range of the attack was equally astonishing. Only the Blackwing Gang's leader was left standing. Over 1,000 of his Blackwing Gang members were now lying on the ground, dead. It was unbelievable that they were taken out just by a single 16-year-old teenager who had such a vicious and fearsome true ki. The Blackwing Gang's leader felt his heart constrict in terror. Only now did he know what kind of person he had messed with. "Hey hiya!" The Blackwing Gang's leader suddenly started laughing maniacally. "What are you laughing about?" Chen Xiang asked as he slowly advanced step by step towards him. "I'm laughing because the Yao family will not let off your Chen family. Your entire Chen family will perish." With a grim smile, the Blackwing Gang's leader replied. In a flash Chen Xiang came in front of him. Forcing out his vigorous true ki, he transformed it into ki aura and fired a powerful punch. The Blackwing Gang's leader flew like a rag doll, crashing into a house on the distant horizon. Chen Xiang quickly flew towards him. Entering into the house, he gripped the Blackwing Gang's leader's head, shouting in his heart, "Engulfing devil skill." This Blackwing Gang's leader was in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. The amount of true ki in his body was not bad, but he was facing Chen Xiang. In front of this monster, the Blackwing Gang's leader was completely helpless and utterly vulnerable. As Chen Xiang cast the Engulfing Devil skill for the first time, He felt a large amount of true ki surging into his arm, heading straight to his body. This true ki was very oppressive and it swirled around in his body. The entire process made him feel uncomfortable, but it was not to an unbearable degree. The Blackwing Gang's leader howled in despair, his heart in endless dismay. He had never dreamed that Chen Xiang could actually draw out the internal true ki within his body and then absorb it. This martial skill was extremely frightening. If the righteous sect came to learn about it, they would certainly hunt Chen Xiang down. Chen Xiang had refined his body within the immortal and devil bond. His bones, muscles and meridians were all incomparably tough. It was actually enough to withstand this sudden surge of true ki, thus stopping his body from exploding. It was also the reason that Bai Yao had dared to teach him this devil skill, because this technique required a very tough body. In just a short moment, the Blackwing Gang's leader hard-cultivated true ki had been entirely deprived by Chen Xiang. As a result, the Blackwing Gang's leader died shortly after. Chen Xiang was also having a hard time. He wanted to suppress and rein in this oppressive true ki, otherwise it would be very troublesome. At this moment, Chen Xiang was not thinking about looting Blackwing Gang, but instead hurried to incinerate the Blackwing Gang's leader body before swiftly leaving. If a Yao family expert came, he would be in a very big trouble. Also, he was in a hurry to completely refine this true ki. Currently his strength was comparable to the 8th level of mortal martial realm. Reaching this level of power in itself was very frightening. It must be known that in the entire Southern Martial Empire, only a few martial artists had reached the 8th level of mortal martial realm. In Dan King Hall's backyard, Chen Xiang arrived and quickly entered a private room deep below the earth. When Chen Luzong saw Chen Xiang's dignified complexion, he did not dare ask anything. If only Meng Bu hadn't gone into seclusion to refine pills, Dan King Ho wouldn't have been destroyed. The Blackwing Gang had been destroyed. This news soon spread through the whole of King City. In the morning, they had gone to Dan King Hall looking to stir up trouble, but in that very same afternoon, the entire gang was completely eradicated. Not only this, but it was also done by Chen Xiang alone. King City's residents were all amazed by Chen Xiang's strength, and at this point they had a new understanding of just how powerful Chen Xiang was. Although many people had died, nobody came forward to address these things, nor did they want to intervene. Although the imperial palace had the emperor, even they did not dare to provoke these powerful figures as they knew very well about the formidability of these martial experts. Chapter 48, Divine Power Realm. Although the Blackwing Gang was exterminated, there was no movement in the Yao family. It was well known that the Blackwing Gang were the Yao family's lackeys. Many people guessed that the Yao family was busy preparing for the upcoming King City's martial tournament, as well as searching for their missing Yao family elder and genius. Dan King Hall was quickly restored to its former brilliance and was ready to start anew. After the Blackwing Gang's extermination, all of King City's citizens were shocked by Dan King Hall's display of strength. Everyone was now rushing into Dan King Hall to buy pills, as their pills were far cheaper than the Yao family's. Soon their Dan shop sales took a huge blow. Most of the customers were martial artists who were neither very wealthy nor did they had a huge background. They earned money in order to buy Dans and elevate their strengths, as such they just choose whomever sold at a cheaper price. Not to mention, Dan King Hall was managed by the Southern Martial Empire's Dan King, making these people feel more at ease about their purchases. The main bulk of the sales were low-grade mortal level Dans. Only a few middle-grade mortal-level Dans were sold because they were a lot more expensive. High-grade mortal-level Dans were sold the least as ordinary people could not afford these Dans. Because the Dangxiang Herbal Manor constantly supplied cheap spirit herbs, Dan King Hall managed to save a lot of money. Plus, even if Dan King Hall had made a great deal of profit, Chen Xiang simply did not want any of it, and all of it was left for Dan King Hall to use. Even after an entire day had passed, Chen Diong was still refining the true ki he had recently engulfed and forcibly taken from the Blackwing Gang's leader. This true ki was very turbid. In order to transform it into the purest form, Chen Xiang had to remove many impurities. This process required a great deal of time. Chen Xiang's danshan was stuffed full of true ki and he was currently constantly compressing that true ki, allowing his danshan to store more and more true ki, simultaneously trying to break into the 8th level of the mortal martial realm. Operating the Tai Chi divine exercise, the Tai Chi yin and yang diagram in Chen Xiang's danshan quickly started to rotate. True ki was constantly entering the Tai Chi diagram. It then quickly broke into the 5 elements, swiftly turning into 5 true ki vortexes. The 8th level of the mortal martial realm, the unlocking of divine power. At this stage, one could fuse their divine sense and true ki together, as a result of which the true key evolved with a spirit of its own and which would be even more powerful. Their aura would also become a lot stronger, exponentially more powerful compared to those in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. In order to advance into the 8th level, one first needs to have vigorous true ki and a strong divine sense. As Chen Xiang had fully absorbed all of the Blackwing Gang leader's true ki, there was no doubt that Chen Xiang's total true ki was quite vigorous. Plus, after his body was refined in the immortal and devil pool, his spirit was exceptionally strong. As his current divine sense could not be considered weak, as soon as he grasped the method to fuse his divine sense and true ki together, he would be able to break through. The mortal martial realm was divided into 10 stages, and during each breakthrough it was like opening a giant lock gate, having to force it open with brute force at each stage. Not only does it need a certain amount of power, but one also needed to comprehend certain tricks. Currently Chen Xiang had more than enough power, he just needed to comprehend how to fuse his true ki and divine sense. As soon as he does, he can unlock that door and enter into the 8th level of the mortal martial realm, the realm of divine power. By operating the Tai Chi divine exercise, he was slowly comprehending the profound secrets of this divine exercise. Chen Xiang's true ki and divine sense gradually fused together. The invisible divine sense melded together with the colorful true ki. These two powerful forces slowly fused together as something seemed to burst open in Chen Xiang's body. Endless strength emerged constantly in a steady stream and continued onwards to impact his meridians, muscles, and bones. Thud in Chen Xiang's mind, a sound suddenly resounded. It was as if a heavy gate had just been opened. In a steady but swift stream, an endless flow of power surged from this opening into his body, thereby enhancing his strength and making it even more tyrannical than before. As Chen Xiang opened his eyes, 2 white beams emitted as the golden mist enshrouding his body gradually dispersed. At this time, his eyes became clear. He could clearly perceive the tiny dust particles drifting on the ground. He can clearly hear far-off sounds from every direction, but he didn't think it was noisy. He could clearly identify what each sound was, what each and every person was saying amongst those chaotic noises. In the most crucial time, Chen Xiang had entered into the 8th level of the mortal martial realm, the divine power realm. He was also just about to reach 17 years of age. King City's martial art tournament was held once every decade. Only those 20 or younger could participate in this grand tourney. This time, it was organized by the Yao family and supervised by numerous experts from the martial arts sects from the Immortal Mountains. Whoever manages to place first in the whole competition would not only win a high-grade spirit-level true elemental Dan, but also earned the qualifications to enter one of the observing martial arts sects. These were very attractive rewards for anyone. It should be known that spirit-level dans were extremely expensive already. In fact, they were generally not sold. Those who require them would need to seek out an alchemist to personally refine it. Not to mention, there was always high risk of failure in refining dans, and besides this was a high-grade spirit-level true elemental Dan. Each true elemental Dan contained a vast amount of pure true ki. After taking and refining the energy within, the individual absorbing the Dan could easily get a large amount of true ki without going through the long arduous process of absorbing the spirit ki of heaven and earth. It was truly a superb Dan that could quickly elevate one's power. Many people applied for the King City's martial art tournament, but only a select few were able to pass through the harsh assessments. In fact, there was merely 40 people in total. This showed just how high the requirements to entire King City's martial art tournament were. During the test, Chen Xiang easily got the highest assessment. His fist had actually pulverized the strength measuring stone. Even the stone was unable to measure his true power. However, not a single person had yet to notice Chen Xiang's arrival. The Yao family's field was akin to mountain and seas composed of human, with a large sea of people encircling the 6 feet high and 20 feet in diameter round martial stage. Standing above the crowd were a total of 39 boys and girls. Chen Xiang was still nowhere to be seen. I heard that 2 days ago he destroyed the Blackwing Gang. Could it be that he was injured and cannot come? Inside the crowd a person's voice could be heard. Most likely. After all, I heard that the Blackwing Gang's leader was a 7th level mortal martial realm expert. Plus, Chen Xiang is rather young. It is highly likely that they were mutually wounded, another person replied. No one has seen Chen Xiang within the Dan King Hall in the past 2 days. It seems like he really cannot come. Such a pity. One man sighed. Everyone watching the tournament was hoping for Chen Xiang's arrival, yet he had not. Many people were very disappointed, making the arrogant group on stage very unhappy. This was because it was as though the audience thought that Chen Xiang would come and easily get first place. While everyone was talking about Chen Xiang, a figure cloaked in black, with sword-like eyebrows and shiny starry eyes, walked up to the stairs of the stage with a clear expression of determination. Watching the calm and handsome boy slowly appear on stage, the entire field fell silent, before bursting into waves of screams. Chen Xiang had finally come, which made the entire crowd excited. On the stage there were now 40 boys and girls, yet Chen Xiang overshadowed them all because of what he wore. Very common black tights, compared to the others who were all luxuriously dressed. Yet in both temperament and build, they were far inferior compared to Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang gave off the impression of a very mature and stable individual, with a faint trace of a smile on his face. All in all, the other boys and girls had a high and mighty attitude, with proud looks on their faces and acting as if the crowd was beneath them. This made everyone watching displeased. Comparatively, everyone looking at Chen Xiang felt comfortable. Chapter 49. Lang Yulin. Chen Xiang had just entered the 8th level of the mortal martial realm and his divine sense was already coming in handy. He could tell that there was actually 2 experts of 7th level of the mortal martial realm on the tournament stage, one of whom was an around 20-year-old boy cloaked in a shining golden aura. The other was a very beautiful girl with soft white hair that was tied into a ponytail. Slim and slender, she looked very beautiful and mature as well, yet also cold and proud. Actually, she was wearing the same type of clothes as Chen Xiang, black tights, sketching out her perfectly hot figure. However, the quality of her outfit far exceeded that of Chen Xiang's. This girl was attracting a lot of attention because of her strange white hair, mature appearance, sexy figure, and extremely beautiful but cold and proud face. Even Chen Xiang glanced towards her many times. The rules are being announced. The first round will be held today. 40 people will be divided into 8 groups of 5. The winner of each group will go on to the quarterfinals. An old man shouted. He was a Yao family elder. 5 will fight on stage at a time. The last man standing will be the victor of the group and advance. The rules were quite common. 5 people would fight a battle royale on stage, eliminating each other one by one while the last one standing would be crowned the victor. The Yao family elder mainly explained the tournament rules to state that they are allowed to use dirty tricks and tactics, but not allowed to kill. Afterwards, the 8 groups were soon formed, and Chen Xiang was not grouped with either of the 2 7th-level mortal martial realm practitioners. In his group, there were 4 guys, each around 19 to 20-year-old and at the pinnacle of the 6th mortal martial realm. It seemed like they were just about to break through to the next level. Chen Xiang guessed that the Yao family had intentionally put him such a group to get him eliminated during the first round of the tournament. At this time, Chen Xiang also learned the identities of the 2 7th-level mortal martial realm practitioners. The girl was called Lang Yulin, and she was the daughter of a famous general of Southern Martial Empire. Yet despite her mature looks, she was only 14 years old. This made Chen Xiang secretly snarl. The other teenager was called Song Nanming. He was the eldest son of the emperor. Basically, he was the crown prince of Southern Martial Empire. This year he just turned 20, and was at pinnacle of 7th level of mortal martial realm. The inherent talent was also good, but in Chen Xiang's opinion it was still poor compared to Lang Yulin, because she was only 14 years old. Chen Xiang's group was the last to fight, but also the most unbalanced. Not only was Chen Xiang only 16 years old, but the other group members were 19 or 20. Everyone could see that this was intentional. If it was one-on-one, Chen Xiang would have the highest possibility to win. But if all 5 people fought in this melee knockout, Chen Xiang may very well be defeated. If it was before, when Chen Xiang was only at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm, he might have been somewhat worried. But now he was in the 8th level of the mortal martial realm and had a lot more strength. Just by stomping his feet on the ground, his feet could shake the whole field. Plus, with the divine exercise and his 5 elements true ki, his strength was comparable to that of a 9th-level mortal martial realm warrior. Chen Xiang did not actually expect he would break through to the 8th level of the mortal martial realm just a few days after he entered the 7th level. This was all thanks to the engulfing devil skill that was taught to him by Yao Wu. At that time, he also understood the dangerous lure of devil skills. Chen Xiang stood among the audiences, watching the first 5 people as they fought on the tournament stage. He was observing their respective fighting styles and his eyes shone whenever they casted their martial skills. He could clearly see the true ki flowing in the meridians thanks to his extraordinary divine sense. As such, it was a piece of cake for Chen Xiang to steal and learn their techniques unlike normal people. This was something he could easily imitate and use in the future. All 5 people were squeezed near the center of the stage. No one wanted to fight near the edge, as once someone steps out, they are eliminated. At this time, they were chaotically fighting in the middle of the stage. This type of chaotic battle also required one to have a certain strength and endurance for them to last long enough to be the last man standing. Sometimes an individual would find themselves facing all other 4 fighters. Moreover, they all attacked and simultaneously resisted others. From these facts, one could see the participants' capability to use and respond to a martial skill. Although the audience exclaimed with gasps of shock and admiration whenever those 5 people cast their martial skills, Chen Xiang felt nothing but disdain. Although flashy, there were far too many shortcomings. As such, he did not try to steal and learn them. The first round was soon finished. The victor's strength was good. With vigorous truki he lasted until he was the last one left. The other 4 were not defeated, but rather had to step down as their truki had been completely consumed. These boys and girls were in 6th level of the mortal martial realm. In many people's eyes, they were geniuses and quite powerful. But Chen Xiang knew their basics were not good. Their foundation was unstable. Their truki was not vigorous or pure enough. Although their martial skills were good, they were not able to unleash the full power of their martial skills, and they also had horrible accuracy. Well, I suppose they are too sheltered. All their lives, they have been treated as treasures and supported by their families, having not suffered the bitterness of true practice. Chen Xiang muttered coldly in his heart. However, not many could practice like him, bitterly practicing until the moon started falling. The next round was the Southern Martial Empire's Crown Prince, Song Nanming's turn. He was a martial artist in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm, but the others were only in the 6th level. In fact, at the beginning of the round, 2 quickly fell down from an explosion. Song Nanming then used his advantage of being in 7th level of the mortal martial realm to swiftly overcome the other 2. The entire audience cheered with excitement after he won. Next, it was the great general's daughter, Leng Yulin's turn. When she stepped on stage, many men in the audience lost their breath as they stared lustfully at her figure. Leng Yulin was wearing black tights. With her slim, slender and flexible legs, her appearance really did not match her age. The mature and graceful body emanated a cold and proud temperament. It was hard for anyone to imagine that this girl was only 14 years old. The truki from this girl is very strange. Chen Xiang frowned and whispered. Su Meiyao replied, this girl has a fire ice vein. What rank it is, I can't tell. The truki that she practices must be fire and ice truki. When these 2 opposing types of truki fuse, they become like this, strange and unpredictable. If you face her flames, it is very possible that they would be able to freeze you. In short, this little girl is marvelous and extraordinary. It would probably be for the best if you became friends with her. Chen Xiang's pupils contracted. Watching that mature and charming figure on the stage, he was secretly shocked in his heart. Someone who could obtain Su Meiyao's acknowledgements would definitely not be ordinary. Start. As the sound faded away, Leng Yulin suddenly turned into a black shadow which rushed around the stage, seemingly dragging something that looked like a long black ghost. Her speed was so fast that the audience clicked their tongues in amazement. They weren't alone, as the 4 men on stage were also stunned. Chen Xiang's brow wrinkled. Even he could barely make out Leng Yulin's beautiful but serious face. But this act made his eyes extremely strained. Her fast speed surprised even him. Bang! A sound suddenly came as one of the participants on stage suddenly flew off. Although most people did not see how the man was beaten down, everyone realized it must have been the quick Leng Yulin. In fact, only her shadow was visible to most of the audience at this point. However, Chen Xiang saw clearly that Leng Yulin sent out a powerful kick on the youth. It was actually strong enough that the individual in question flew out after one strike. Leng Yulin quickly struck each of her opponents in such a way that only her silhouette was visible. All it took was one kick as each of her competitors flew out. As the other participants flew out one by one, everyone cheered. Leng Yulin has successfully entered the quarterfinals. Next is the final group. The Yao family elder shouted. Finally it was Chen Xiang's turn. Everyone knew that Chen Xiang was going to face 4 other 6th-level mortal martial realm experts. Each of them had remained in that realm for many years. They were naturally much stronger than others at the same level, making it even more disadvantageous for Chen Xiang. Chapter 50. Plot. As Chen Xiang stepped onto the stage, his facial expression was completely relaxed. He was in no way anxious because of his 4 powerful opponents. This calm and confident attitude made others admire him. Chen Xiang stood with the other 4 on stage, and even though they were 20 years old, they were still shorter. Their statures were not as robust as the 17-year-old Chen Xiang's. He actually looked more healthy and energetic compared to them. Leng Yulin, who was in the audience, seriously watched Chen Xiang. Her cold and beautiful eyes carefully observed Chen Xiang, wanting to see through him. But it was like clouds had covered more clouds. She wasn't even able to sense Chen Xiang's breath. Start. The instant the signal was given, all four of the other participants rushed towards Chen Xiang extremely quickly. At the same time, they simultaneously blasted out a fist wrapped in vigorous true ki. Everyone could clearly tell that the four fists emitted a frightening amount of true ki. It seemed like they could even blast giant mountains into tiny rocks. Chen Xiang simply stood still with both hands behind his back. The four fists fiercely landed on his chest and bursted into ki waves which lead to a gust of fierce winds. The whole tournament stage wildly shook and nearly collapsed. At this moment, everyone's heart seemed to stop. The four fists were so frightening, and had all landed on a single target. Let alone people, even solid iron bars would easily break under such pressure. But Chen Xiang was not an ordinary man. When the four fists struck his chest, his expression did not change in the slightest. In fact, if anything, his face was more relaxed as he stood there, which bathed the entire crowd in silence. Everyone stood dumbly like wooden chickens. Astonishment was clearly visible on every single face in the crowd. Ling Yulin's brow wrinkled. She was tightly watching Chen Xiang. Her mature, proud and cold face was painted with surprise. Even if she completely exhausted all of her true ki, she could only barely resist those four fists. Yet not only did Chen Xiang not use any true ki, he didn't even prepare himself to defend. This was how casually he received those four blows. Chen Xiang didn't use true ki because he had already entered the 8th level of the mortal marital realm. Furthermore, his body was naturally a lot stronger due to the refinement in the immortal and devil pool. For him, opponents in the 6th level and the 1st level of the mortal marital realm were the same. Their attacks were merely superficial. Of course, out of everyone present, the most shocked were the four men who attacked Chen Xiang. As their frightening attacks struck Chen Xiang's body, it felt like everything went down the drain. The enormous strength they had put in their strikes just quietly disappeared, making them all question their own power because of how easily the other side had resisted the combined attacks with nothing but his body. They all openly retreated. If Chen Xiang can casually resist their simultaneous attack and not even flinch, one could only imagine the strength. It was dead certain that he was extremely powerful. Chen Xiang fully opened his eyes fully as the invisible slaughter ki emerged from his body. All the four men were bathed in extreme bloodlust as their whole bodies froze. It was as if they had fallen into hell at the height of its slaughter, and Chen Xiang was the god of slaughter, and the four men were nothing but lambs led to the slaughterhouse. Do you want get down and forfeit, or do you want me to act? Chen Xiang's voice was full of killing intent. This was truly terrifying. This slaughter ki resulted from him practicing the slaughtering heart from the White Tiger divine exercise, which added a spiritual pressure. Chen Xiang's voice resounded as the four people standing immediately backed off. Under the sweep of his frightening and almost divine killing sense, their spirits had collapsed long ago. With the help of his divine sense, not a single one of them had any intention left of fighting against him. From start to finish, Chen Xiang did not even move. He simply scared away the other four and entered into the quarterfinals. This result was outside anyone's expectations. Those who had entered into the quarterfinals experienced a large amount of pressure from facing this monster, Chen Xiang. Their chances of winning just diminished greatly. Next was to create 4 groups of individual one-on-one fights. This was also managed by the Yao family, but the matchups had not been announced for quite some time. Chen Xiang said nothing. In his eyes whoever he had to fight was the same. Even if the Yao family tried to play dirty tricks, they would all amount to nothing like their attempt just now. Chen Xiang's next opponent turned out to be a Yao family member. In fact, it seems like he was the brother of Yao Tianhua. His name was Yao Chong and was only of the 6th level of the mortal martial realm. This actually made Chen Xiang surprised for a moment, but he quickly guessed things were not as they seemed as he was the most clear on the Yao family's strength. Not to mention that the Yao family had arranged for someone from their own family to fight. There was no doubt some form of trickery involved. The Yao family disciples usually either planted spirit herbs or learned alchemy techniques. From the very start, their strength was way behind others. Yao Tianhua was an exception as he could practice alchemy and have a good amount of power. However, he was currently missing. The Yao family simply did not have any other outstanding disciples. The Yao family mainly used their dance to attract other families and a large number of wandering martial artists to settle down under their authority. Once again, Chen Xiang was in the last round of the day. Starting tomorrow, there would be 2 fights each day. one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Chen Xiang wasn't concerned about anyone, so he didn't go watch the earlier matches. He felt that the time would be better spent practicing alchemy. Once 2 days had gone past, and Chen Xiang was walking towards the Yao family after eating lunch. Although he didn't go watch the 3 matches, 2 yesterday and 1 in this morning, he still learned who won. The Crown Prince and Lang Yulan both won their respective matches and would fight each other tomorrow morning. This match between the Crown Prince and the Great General's daughter should be very interesting. Perhaps I'll go and watch tomorrow. Chen Xiang made a quick mental note as he stepped on the tournament stage, waiting for Yao Chong to arrive. As for Chen Xiang's and Yao Chong's fight, everyone thought that Chen Xiang would easily win. However, they were uncertain why the Yao family would allow Chen Xiang to face Yao Chong. It was like sending him to do a thankless and pointless job. Your display of strength clearly shows your worth as someone who defeated Tianhua. I hope Brother Chen will show some leniency. Yao Chong approached Chen Xiang and said with a smile. Yao Chen and Yao Tianhua looked somewhat similar. A sliver of pride could be easily seen on either of their faces, but it seemed more subdued on Yao Chen's. Chen Xiang did not actually care about the Xiao family junior or his courtesy. Chen Xiang smiled and said, then we can compare notes on our martial arts. The two quickly separated from each other. Start. The instant the signal was given, Chen Xiang saw a hint of ruthlessness and cunningness appear in Yao Chong's eyes. Chen Xiang was slightly surprised in his heart, but knew that there was some dirty trickery ahead. Yao Chong took the initiative as he leapt towards Chen Xiang. Both of Yao Chong's fists were cloaked in hot flames, surging with a vigorous and scorching hot true ki. Watching the punch come towards him, Chen Xiang immediately moved to dodge. But in that instant, his whole body suddenly became schlax, and he was unable to put forth even a tiny bit of strength. He was even unable to move his true ki, which made his heart jump with shock. Yao Chong's face suddenly turned ferocious as he said in a heavy voice, Chen Xiang, you are finished. Both of his flaming fists landed on Chen Xiang's body, madly striking him. In just a blink of an eye, his chest and head have all been smashed by those violent fists. This bastard, he's actually at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Chen Xiang had not expected that Yao Chong had hidden his strength so deeply. Yet what Chen Xiang was most angry about was the despicable trick that Yao Chong has used that resulted in Chen Xiang's body turning weak and made him unable to mobilize his true ki. Unfortunately, Chen Xiang's body could be considered tougher than stone. Despite being struck by a 7th mortal martial realm expert with no defense, he was still not seriously injured, which scared the living daylights out of Yao Chong. When you were talking to me, you released an odorless and colorless poison from your mouth, paralyzing my meridians so that I can't move my true ki, right? Chen Xiang whispered, as his clear and calm eyes looked straight at Yao Chong. Yao Chong did not expect for his opponent to find out what method used so soon, but did not confirm or deny Chen Xiang's statement. Instead he attempted to strike him with even more ferocity and madness.